Hello everyone, in today's video we're going to be using the Airbus A321 in a way it was never intended. Well, maybe not never intended, but certainly not ideal, and that is a completely manual flight without the FMS, without any autopilot, without any auto throttle, just the old-fashioned way. And as you can see, the weather conditions here in lovely Connecticut, as they say, April flowers bring May, which brings more showers in our state, and you can see it's not very pleasant. So this is going to be a fun challenge for us today. Let's get started. So right now we have our aircraft just sitting here on the ground, basically ready to go. I'm completely neglecting the process of basically setting this up because it's just not something that I'm going to need to do for the purposes of this flight. What I am going to need to do for the purpose of this flight, though, is work out quite a few of the little details before we get airborne. Let's take a look. So right now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be flying from lovely Bradley International Airport. This is all real-world weather, by the way. It's just a gross day. And we're going to be taking off runway 33. We're going to come around here. We're going to go 140 for about 38 nautical miles to lovely over here, Norwich VOR. From there, we're going to swing over to the 94 radial, and we're going to go all the way here to lovely PVD. Now, unfortunately for us, the weather over at PVD is not optimal, and it's actually coming out of this direction, basically that north or west, which means when we come in for a landing, we're going to get the short runway, number one. And number two, it means we're going to have this really obnoxious procedure turn that we're going to have to sort of execute here. What I'll try to do is I'll probably kind of come a little south and then kind of come a little bit up to make this a little easier for us and a little bit shorter of a video. But like I said, everything we're going to do today is going to involve not using the autopilot or the flight management system, FMGC. So this is going to be kind of fun. Let's get started. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to have to get our navigational radios all set up. Now, there's a couple different ways to do it in this plane. One method you could use is you could use kind of the manual backup mode, or the other method, of course, we could use this. I'd rather use this just so there's less likely of a chance of me missing a number somewhere. And you know what I mean if you go to fiddle with the radio the old-fashioned way. So I'm going to press Rad Nav, and you can see our frequencies are ready to go. First frequency, of course, is going to be Norwich, and that's going to be 110.0. So I'm going to click 1/110 and just come up here and click. What that will do right away is you can see ORW. It worked perfectly. And now we just pick our course. If you remember from our example earlier, I'll go ahead and pull that down so y'all can see it real fast. You can see here that we're doing a 140 for 38 nautical miles. Go ahead and dial that value in. Tap that. Nice. Next thing I want to do is I want to dial in PVD's VOR because it has a DME there, and it's going to help us out a little bit. So let's see here. The frequency for that one is 115.6. That's going to be our next frequency. It's not going to have a particular course or anything like that, but it will help us out with the second half of this trip when we're trying to figure out how freaking far away we are from our destination there. PVD, ORW, check, no course here. ILS. Let's take a look what we have for the ILS. And unfortunately, this is 3-4, which takes us over the bay here, which has a really obnoxious altitude of 2,000 feet at Bevan. Oh boy, this is going to be fun. 111.5. Looks good to us. So let's go ahead and dial that in. So it's going to be /111.5. We'll go ahead and toss that in there. While I'm sitting here pushing buttons, let's go ahead and get everybody started up. That looks pretty good to me. Gotta love the Airbus. It keeps it nice and simple for stuff like that. Let's see here. That's all preset. We need to dial in the course. The course, for those of you who are keeping score here, let's take a look here. 337 is going to be our course. All right, 337. And we are all set. Idiot check time. Let's see here. We've got our frequencies dialed in. We've got our courses selected. We have our course for landing selected. Everything is ready to go, believe it or not. Wow, that wasn't too bad. Let's go ahead and dial in some minimums as those engines are spooling up here, just to make sure everything's got kind of looking good. Just kind of doing my little idiot check here. Let's go set this over to VOR mode. We're going to snap this to VOR as well. This is going to give us the Norwich VOR once we get airborne. Keep in mind, down here on the ground, you're not going to be able to pick the thing up. Well, that looks pretty good to me, and that looks pretty good to me. Like I said, just running through all my different buttons, confirming everything is roughly the way that I want it to be. VHF, naturally, you'd want to be talking to people on the radio this time. Let's go ahead and get our system set up for weather. I guess technically he doesn't need to look at it, but I'll leave it on for now, and that, of course, will kick on our weather radar, which isn't really going to do much for us right now. It's just going to be kind of blank. All right, I hear all sorts of angry sound effects. It sounds like the navigational display is showing an awful lot of rain. And I look out the window, I happen to completely agree with you. Now, that's going to be a little obnoxious. I'm actually going to shut that off for now. There we go. That's, like I said, it's just going to kind of blind me. All right, that's all set. Let's go pop off the ignition switch. I'm going to reach up above my head here. We don't need the APU anymore. I appreciate it. It's a wonderful, wonderful contribution to our flight today. Let's get a couple lights on just to let everybody know we're being stupid and doing something, we're just going to fly through nasty weather without, the benefit of automatic throttle and all those nice little safety procedures and everything like that. So we're ready to go. Everything's pretty much the way that I want it to be. Again, no flight director, no ILS. We've got a good old-fashioned compass rose. Everything's looking good. At this point, we just have a couple little takeoff checks here. We're going to go ahead and get our flaps in the correct position. Going to get ready for an aborted takeoff in case something goes awful, which, sometimes it does. We're going to get all sorts of little warning lights popping on there. Or toga, we're doing this manually. I don't think so. So we're going to leave that alone. Again, we could actually technically come over here and flip this to plan or something, and it's just going to look at us blankly. Because again, there's nothing going on right now. Everything is going to be completely manual. All right, that looks good to me, and ground spoilers are good. One thing we should check is a takeoff configuration check. No angry warnings appeared, which means we did our takeoff configuration check correctly. And that's it. It's just a matter of flying. Let's do it. So I'm going to go ahead and release my park and brake there. Give it just a tap of gas. We're pretty light today, so it's going to make it a little bit easier. And we're just going to kind of wheel over here. Now, the thing that makes this challenging, and I'm just going to tell you right now, I am no Airbus professional. This is not my plane. The thing that makes it challenging is that you're going to have the fly-by-wire. And it's not that you're going to be fighting the fly-by-wire. It's going to be learning to be slow and smooth and kind of let the fly-by-wire sort of do its thing. Now, that's just one of those things that, like I said, I come from more traditional aircraft. Like I said, everybody knows I do the general aviation thing in the real world, and this is just a little different. All right, let's go sneak onto the runway. Go ahead and tap that landing light on just real quick. Go ahead and line ourselves up. Like I said, and one of the tough things we're going to face on this flight that's going to make me quite crazy is going to be the automatic throttle. You'll see what I mean. All right, looking good, looking good. One last check. Everything's been set. Looks good. Park and brake is disengaged. Let's do it. So we're going to go ahead and set. So we have a manual throttle that's continuous real quick. I'm going to go ahead and tap it up to manual thrust right now. The whole plane is going to crouch. I'll release the brakes. It's going to warn me and say, you never inserted the takeoff speed. Why are you doing this? What are you doing? Relax. I know what I'm doing. I know it's about 141 knots, so I'm not too worried about it. All right, let's get going. Looking good, looking good, looking good. There's 120 knots. There's 140 knots. Let's give it a tug. And you can see this thing just snaps right into the air. Our landing gear is going to come up. That first click of flaps right away. And we're just going to be pulling that nose up just a little bit. Very nice. And that's about, we'll call it about 11, 12 degrees there as we continue our acceleration. Oh, man, it feels so weird not seeing the flight director down there. Get ourselves a little bit of acceleration here. Looking pretty good. We'll go ahead and pop this down to a continuous there. And we're just going to let the nose come down just a little bit as we execute that right turn and start making our way towards our first waypoint. Now, if you take a look at the compass rose there on the right side display, you can see that it's showing that everything is behind us, which makes sense. It also shows that we are basically in the wrong direction at the moment, which is perfectly fine. Now, this is where the disorientation is going to kick in, so you have to be very slow here. You can see we're already doing 260 knots. We're supposed to be keeping it under 250. Air traffic control, forgive me someday. Like I said, we are a very, very light airplane today. It's about 12 degrees. And again, we're just enjoying that nice, relaxing turn. Everybody in the back seats are getting flattened a little bit as we take this nice little turn. Like I said, at any point, we could pull the throttle back down a little bit, but we'll enjoy the fact we've got all this glorious, glorious acceleration to try getting us up to altitude a little bit quicker. Go ahead and back up the thrust a little bit here. We don't need quite that much. There we go. It looks good there. Nice. And one of the reasons that I did go ahead and cancel that out, as you probably noticed, we hit 6,000 feet per minute climb, which is plenty. Well, we're going to be hitting that 10,000 very quickly here. Now, the interesting thing is, even though we're flying an Airbus, I'm finding myself making these little micro corrections this entire climb, which, again, doesn't surprise me. Hey, one of the coolest things in aviation, by the way, right there. Start pulling my throttle back a little bit. And we're about 10 degrees climb there. It's about 270, and you can see those beautiful clouds. This is real-world weather, by the way, in case you're curious. So I hope Providence isn't nasty when we get there. And we're just going to go ahead and level off the best I can. I'm not going to pretend I'm good at this. There we go. 10,000 feet, and power set. I can let go of the controls. That was nice. All right, landing lights are off. I did hit the switch properly this time. And you can see we are on course. Basically, right now, the battle is going to be keeping this thing level as well as paying close attention to our VOR. So take a look over here on the right. So I'll go ahead and move my head down. You can see we're a little to the left of the course here, and we've got about 35 miles to go. Now, the crazy thing about this flight is it's basically going to be Norwich VOR, starter descent down to the ground. So let's go ahead and take a look at a little flight plan. Remember, we're not cheating or anything here. We got everything like this. Basically, what got at this point is we just took off right probably around here, about Rockville or so, if I had to give myself a quick little guesstimate there. And we're basically, like I said, still a little left of course. I can see that very clearly on my VOR. I want to do a quick little idiot check, though. I'm going to snap this over to VOR for PVD, and I can see I'm about 51 miles away from PVD. Now, the reason this gets disorienting is when I flip that little VOR switch, you'll probably notice that I can now see where PVD is. This is going to be really important for me for the ILS landing at the end of all this. But for now, you can see distance is ticking down, and we're getting a lot closer to being on course. I'm going to shut this off because that's just going to be very, very, very disorienting for us. Go ahead and give it a nice little gentle tug. Look at how beautiful this is. Isn't this so awesome? Isn't this cool? I don't know. I find stuff like this so fascinating. So in the real world, when you hit clouds with hello again. When you hit clouds with airplanes, like I've said this 100 times, you will get bounced. It doesn't matter if you're in a little 172. It doesn't matter if you're in a C-17. It's going to bounce you around a little bit. All right, we are now on course. I'm going to go ahead and execute a nice little turn here. And like I said, when we turn this thing, like I said, because of the fly-by-wire, it does a really nice job of kind of keeping you trim, but you really, really have to kind of just let it do its thing. That was probably one of the toughest things for me transitioning to the Airbus. That looks good to me right there. I'm going to go ahead and come out of the turn. Again, I love how in the real world, it's just a little stick. I was actually reading a really interesting, basically a post with a bunch of Airbus A320 pilots. This is an Airbus A321, by the way, in case you missed the description. And one of the things I found really fascinating is they're all discussing, like, sort of how, like, the little side stick that you actually use to control this thing, which is this guy right here, gets kind of worn out. So, like, you know, if you get a nice fresh one, everything's still kind of like stiff and it's easy to use and like kind of twist and stuff like that. But as the aircraft, you know, kind of goes through the motions and you start wearing the thing out, you run into a situation where it's like really loose and it doesn't really have like a good center. So when you think about like your joystick at home, which hopefully you do have one of those, hopefully you're not using keyboard and mouse. Feel sorry for you if you are. But let's say you are using a joystick and it kind of wears out with time. Like that's just part of the fun, as I always like to kind of jokingly say there. And it just gives you an idea. Isn't this absolutely glorious? Look at this. That is awesome. And I love the fact that I don't have to fiddle with trim right now. That is something I definitely appreciate. Ah, that is beautiful. Of course, the fun part of the flight starts in about 6 minutes here. We have to get this thing back down on the ground. So we're 20 miles to go to Norwich, and you can see that very, very clearly. And oh boy. Everybody ready to earn it? So what you want to do is if you're following my flight and you're trying a shot at this yourself, like I said, the weather conditions are real, so it might be a little different for you. One of the things you got to remember is we have to give ourselves a little bit of time to work here. And our speed is good, our power is good, everything is really, really good right now. However, one of the things we have to get ready for is the fact that we're going to be descending basically as soon as we cross Norwich VOR. We're also going to be changing direction. So if I actually pull this out real quick, when we get here, we're about right here, by the way. When we get there, we have to switch to a 94 course. Now, the 94 is going to put us at a really awkward angle for the ILS. So you'll see what I mean when we get there. All right, looking good, looking good. Yeah, I'm technically not at 10,000 feet, but it's fine. All right, I hate this part. Okay, here we go. So get ready for 94. When this gets down to about, let's call it about 6 miles or so, we'll switch to 94 on our course. All right, that's about 6 nautical miles. That was the easy part. Now we have the fun part of this flight. So what I'm going to do is pop down to my navigational radio here. I'm going to go ahead and dial 94 for our course, and we're going to start our descent. Now, the tough thing here is going to be cutting the corner. Now, you notice right now that it shows that we're massively off course, but I've learned from doing this a few times as a pilot that you want to kind of head off the pass here because that thing is going to get all sorts of crazy on you. So I'm going to go ahead and take a nice gentle left turn here and put us on a little bit better of a collision course with the 94, probably about 100 degrees, and I'm also going to be pulling the throttle back to 0. It is time for our descent. Let's go ahead and pop that right there. We're doing too many things at once. It's always bad for a pilot. There we go. Just flip on the landing lights, and we're going to make our way down. This will be pretty good right here. In just a moment, what's going to happen is you're going to notice the you can see our little navigational compass here, basically pointing off to our right. It's going to switch, and this needle is going to go, brrr. You'll know what I mean when it happens. So the other thing we want to think about, too, is we start our descent down into Providence, is we're probably telling our cabin crew we're about to do that. That probably would have been nice. I hope they weren't serving drinks, because they'd be pretty mad at me right now. But what we're going to do is basically start making our way down. Like I said, not too crazy. The throttle on this one's a little more polite than the Airbus A320, which I like. And look at that. just like I promised, there is that needle. We have done VORs a few times in the past. Realistically, I think they're great. I know some people are like, I just use GPS. It's simple. Yes, anybody can just use GPS because it's simple. It's the folks who are like, oh, I know where I am in the sky instantly. That's a talent. That takes practice. All right, our speed is nicely managed. We're about 250 knots there, and we're going to start making our way down. Okay, now we have to get ready for the actual challenging part of this flight, and that's getting this thing back on the ground. So right now we're proceeding along our 94. Let's go ahead and pull out our chart here. We're basically right around here on this lake. So we're going to go this way. When we get about here, which is going to be, let's call that about 10 miles away from Providence, we're probably going to have to come kind of east a little bit and then basically take a big left turn here in order to line ourselves up. We also know that we're going to be at an altitude of about 2,000 feet. That's going to be kind of the sweet spot. And our final course, of course, is going to be 337. Let's go ahead and get that out of the way. All right, looking good, looking good. Speed is completely under control. Like I said, this aircraft, once you kind of just get used to it, it's not bad. They did a nice job here. They always say if it's not Boeing, it's not going. You know, they make fun of like Airbus and all that battle and stuff like that. It's all good. You know, a pilot, like anything, flying any day is a good day, kind of a thing like that as far as pilots are concerned. All right, let me go check my frequencies here. That's set correctly. That's kind of surprising that we're not getting a reading off that. Oh, there it is, 118.5 there. I had a feeling. Okay, good. All right, actually, as a matter of fact, I could shut that off. There we go. That's even more useful. So I can see that I'm about 20 nautical miles away, well, 18 to be honest, from PVD. We also noticed that our destination, Bevan, which let me pull this down so y'all can see it real quick. We know that Bevan right here is going to be about 7 nautical miles away from PVD, so that makes our lives a little bit simpler. Oh my goodness, the disorientation just struck. Oh, I got to look down at the floor for a second. I'm thinking I'm crashing into the ocean, but we're perfectly level right now. Oh, goodness. Okay, nobody said this was easy. I'll bring myself to this side. Now, one of the great things we have here is I can press this LS button, and if you look, it'll actually trigger the ILS, and it gives me the oh-so-critical DME information right there at the bottom. Delightful. Let's see, that's all taken care of. We're back on course. I can actually pop this one off because it's doing a perfectly good job right now. All right, there we go. Swing to my left. I am actually a little low at this point, so one of the things I could do is I could actually pull the nose up just a little bit and give it just a crack of power. And what that's going to do is we're basically flying a sideways glide slope right now. Let me sum down here so you can see what's going on. So this is our actual glide slope. We are reading this data accurately now. So you can see from where I am versus where I should be that I'm a little bit low, but that I'm quickly catching up. Like I said, we're just going to pull the nose up just a little bit. And then if, like I said, a little crack of power, and next thing you know, we'll be perfect as far as this goes. And we could basically use that as a way to judge our up and down. Now, the weather here looks a little nasty, but I think we'll be okay. I'm actually going to lift the nose up just a tiny bit here. Now, I can see here that the ILS is about 12 miles. Again, the PVD's over there, basically, if you want to think about it another way. One of the things I was saying here is I want to kind of square it off a little bit to give myself a little tiny bit of room. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come to my right here. Again, this is not an approved procedure by any means, but if I give myself just a little bit more room to work, this is going to be a little bit easier of a turn. It's also going to give us time to start slowing the plane down. There we go, about 120. I'm intentionally coming off course here. There we are. We're just a little tiny bit low, 2,500 feet. Oh, man, this is so sweet. Oh, good day. Look at that. We might just get a break on the weather here. This is a good day. Ew, that's way too bright. Fix. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, so we're a little low, but that's perfectly what I intended. Bring the nose up just a smidge. Let's see here. We're about 10 nautical miles. What we're going to execute is essentially a DME arc here. So I've got a 9.6 nautical miles, and you can see that that number is, we need to see what it's going to do. If that number goes down, that means we're getting closer, which means we need to come to the right a little tiny bit. And what we're going to do is we're going to ride this arc and basically take a left turn and get ourselves all squared up. We flip on the VOR display. Excellent. So now I can see very clearly that Providence right now is basically at 30 degrees from my current position. I'm basically going to ride this around until it lines up with my ILS. See how that works? I love this stuff. Love it. All right. PVD's over there somewhere, but I'm not worried about it too much. Give it just another crack of throttle. There we go. So now we're going to start flying the DME arc. So you can see here we're at a 9.5. So what we're going to do is execute a really lazy left turn. Hello, lazy. And with that nice lazy left turn here, it's going to help set us up perfectly for the approach. So again, it doesn't need to be too aggressive. We do need to get down to about 2,000 feet, though. Good time to go ahead and click in a notch of flaps there. Those little slats kind of help a little bit. It also makes the plane bounce around more. Trust me on that one. There we go. Like I said, we're just basically flying a DME arc now. Man, you're doing all the instrument stuff today. You folks are lucky. All right, looks good to me. Let's go flip over to ILS mode. It's going to scream at me to notify me that I've done that. 200 knots is a very lovely speed for us. Perfect. All right, we're getting too close. I can see the DME kind of winding down. Now, if you look right now, we're actually perpendicular to the ILS. So the runway basically is right over there. Hey, Quonset! Hey, we're not lost. Good news, everybody. We're not lost. There we go. We're just going to keep executing a nice, gentle turn. You can see the glide slope is very much alive. Our airspeed's getting a little low. All right. We're just going to try to get ourselves roughly at about a 30 degree right there. Glide slope is alive. Localizer is going to be waking up in about 2 seconds here. Watch this. Watch this. Watch the localizer. That's that guy right there. Watch this. Watch this. Watch this. We are on glide slope. Landing gear is down. Landing light is on. Isn't this fantastic? This is so much fun. Oh, man, I miss flying like this. This is so much more challenging than just pushing the button. There we go. We're on glide slope. We are to the left of the localizer. I guess we should be calling them, like requesting like landing permission and all that other good stuff in a second. Check our altimeter. Let's do our idiot checks. Chickadee check, chickadee check, chickadee check. All right, we're looking good. All right, we're doing about 160 knots right now. Our approach speed is about 121. So doesn't it feel like you're moving in slow motion? That wind is strong. Also, it is now a vicious crosswind, which is, it happens. And all oh, look at me. Look at that crosswind. Look at that. These people here in these houses must be really grumpy about us right now. 160 feels like a pretty good speed here. Now, if you watch carefully, you want to see a cool thing? Right here, this is our ILS localizer. This guy is that PVD VOR. When these two lines overlap with each other, theoretically, we should be in a position where the aircraft is on the localizer. Not perfectly, because keep in mind, the VOR station is not at the end of the runway, so you're going to get that kind of fun little drift. All right, checking all my stuff. I got to, like, get all the tension out of my fingers, because we're about to switch to an ILS in a few moments here. All right, we are on glide slope. Speed is good. The airplane is nice and dirty. Dirty, dirty airplane. All right, here we go. It's going to jiggle. It's going to jiggle. I swear it's going to jiggle. Ready? There goes. Told you. Told you. And there's our runway. I did mention the fact that our final approach is going to be a little messy, right? I said that before takeoff, right? All right. Fortunately, we can switch to visual and just put this thing on the ground the old-fashioned way. We have a running joke in the aviation class I teach at my local high school. And it's, anytime somebody's coming in for a landing, we always have to yell, terrain, terrain, pull up, pull up. We basically do it to each other for, like, no particular reason. So, like, you know, if they're coming in for, like, you know, walking down the hallway or something like that, and they get too close to the wall, you can just be like, wall, wall. I don't know. It's just fun. All right. So we're right on speed right now. We're right on glide slope. Actually, we're a little low. We're a little bit to the right of localizer. You can see that very clearly right there. But I'm on visual now, so I could basically put this plane on the ground the old-fashioned way just by looking. I don't know. Something feels kind of not quaint about that, but it's kind of fun.
300.
300. 200, 100, 100. Airspeed, 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 airspeed. That's a fun thing I like about this plane. As I hate, like, your default view is kind of down a little bit. So when you're coming in for an approach and everything looks good, all of a sudden you're too high and you're too fast. And you haven't done anything because your head is actually here. See what I mean?
30, 40, 30, 20. Retard 10. Retard.
Am I being judged by the auto throttle? And we are down. Very nice. Very nice. All right. So as you can see, it is completely possible to operate this aircraft without any external automation, even in instrument conditions. I got a little low on that approach there, and I definitely recognize that that was nasty. But you can see just how flyable this plane is in any scenario. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a situation where, you're completely computerized. As long as you have a good plan and you're able to kind of follow through with it, you can fly these entire flights without once using that flight management computer. Enjoy.